Hello, it's me, Jess. Welcome to my channel. I'm here with another channeled message. This is a specific message. It might resonate with you, it might not. All right, so this message, whoever this is for, I feel like you are starting to awaken. And I think I mean that in more ways than one, but on the 3D, I feel like you are starting to awaken to the reality of your situation. And what I think I mean by your situation for most of you is like your immediate home environment. And this is like a combination of a partnership, a home environment, and a family situation. And the way I would describe this is highly distracting. This is a highly distracting situation. And I think that's really what it's built on, actually. I think that's what you're starting to realize, because it seems to me that this started off as a partnership between two people. And no offense, but I feel like this partnership was schmegdual, and I really don't think it was built on much else. But I think it was highly distracting for you at a time when you wanted to be highly distracted, especially from your emotions, like your heavier emotions or your deeper emotions, and from some situation that I think you were trying to outrun here from your past that you were emotionally invested in some way. And so, like I said, the highly distracting kind of superficial nature of that connection suited you for a time. And I think that pursuing that distraction, I think, then turned into a home environment situation that was, once again, superficial but highly distracting, but it suited you for that time. And I think that then turned into a family situation that's highly distracting and it suited you for a time. And this is a partnership basically that kind of follows a pattern of like a new event or a new goal, and it's a very 3D goal, but there's a lot of preparation and there's a lot of excitement, but it feels on the level of consciousness as like errands, to be honest. Like, okay, we do all this work to kind of plan for the party or the remodel or the apartment hunting, and then it happens, then the event happens, and it's kind of right back down to nothing. And then it's like the next distraction. And I think you're realizing that that was the hook here, because in the past, I think you thought that this situation was your happiness. And I also think when you look back in the past, you recognize that I think you kind of wonder how you got here, how you got into the situation, because as you're awakening, you're realizing that as you're awakening, you are more and more willing to dip below the superficial, to actually connect with your emotions, to confront the stuff that might have been scary or overwhelming in the past. And as you're connecting with your emotional self and realizing what makes you happy, happiness is an emotion, right? Genuinely happy and fulfilled, you're realizing the situation does not honor that. And it definitely has not been built on it. And so it makes you ask yourself, how did I get here? So when you're kind of debriefing with yourself, I think you realize that you were a willing participant in this. Nobody dragged you kicking and screaming into this. But it was basically that you were pursuing this distraction. And the happiness that you thought you felt wasn't real happiness, the emotion of happiness, of fulfillment. It was relief. I think what it actually was relief from emotional pain of some kind that actually needed to be confronted. But I think you felt overwhelmed, or you weren't used to dealing in that space. And so the way that you sought to deal with that pain of a past situation that we'll talk about here, where actually there was deep emotion, is you sought something superficial. And in that way, I think you knew what you were doing. And I think you kind of feel complicit in your own capture here. Because now I think you find yourself in a situation that you don't really recognize. You can't really understand why you pursued it. And I think why you did pursue it is because you were running. You were running away from the pain of a past situation and the intensity of a past situation and everything it was bringing up for you. And I just heard betrayal wound, but we'll talk about that here in a second. And you were running towards that distraction. And part of that distraction is the core need of attunement, which is the capacity to attune to our own needs and emotions. And it can show up as a pride of being the shoulder that people cry on, making yourself indispensable, feeling needed, and pride in not having your own needs. And so I think there was something about this person, this highly superficial, distracting situation, and the goal-oriented nature. It's a very superficial, three-dimensional goal situation of this relationship, it made you feel needed. It gave you purpose. And most importantly, it gave you something to put your focus and attention on instead of your own emotions. So basically, this is a situation that has been built on a lot of unconsciousness on your part, and especially in the realm of emotion. This is a situation where you were distracting yourself from your own emotions. So now that you're willing to confront your emotions, part of what you're confronted with is that this situation has been, I think you feel that you've built this other person's dream, this partner that you're with. And there could be some resentment here. And also the distraction that you used to find relief and comfort in. Now that you're not running from your inner space and something here from your past, I think you're finding it grating because you're trying to connect with your emotions. You're trying to understand this, and it's not, it's actually, it feels itchy, in some kind of way. And I think you're looking at this partner and you're realizing that they, in a way, and especially in terms of like the 3D, they've really profited from being with you, and that you've spent a lot of your time and energy building this person's dream. But I think you were complicit in that because what you got from the situation, your part of the bargain, was you got distracted from your emotions. But I think you kind of look at this person, and this situation suits all of their needs and it suits none of your needs. And I think it's just reached some kind of critical mass where it's like an alarm has gone off, and now you're starting that, coupled with an awakening and coupled with, I think, your emotional maturity. You're starting to kind of put all of this together. And I think that leads you back to the inception of all of this, which I think for most of you was actually another situation with another person. And I'm hearing like you willfully misunderstood that person, and you willfully misunderstood that situation in order to jump. But if it wasn't another person, then this situation that you're in could have started off as an affair, because I feel like this situation in the past, there was something really sexually dishonorable or sexually fucked up that went on in the situation. And that's where I'm getting betrayal wound. And it could have been you that did that to this person that actually you loved and cared about. There was an emotional connection, a deep emotional connection. No matter how attracted you were to this person that you were with before this other person, or that you liked, or whatever that situation was, there was an emotional connection. There was an emotional bond. But then whatever went on here was messed up, and it was wrong. And it left somebody with a betrayal wound. And actually, I think you both feel this, but it could have been you that like involved a third party, possibly this person, I don't know, on this other person, and like betrayed them. You could have ghosted is what I'm getting. Or it just feels like a running energy, like you ran. And I think you ran because after the damage had been done, it was like a deep emotional damage. And you didn't know how to deal in that space. I think you were overwhelmed and you were intimidated, and all you knew was the superficial. So you did something here that was wrong to get yourself back on a superficial level where you felt like you knew more what you were doing in the landscape. And it was the exact wrong thing to do. And if it wasn't the original situation that left that person from your past with a betrayal wound, then it was the act of doing that, of running away from that situation. And every moment after that you pursued this. And I actually think that you had a fear of investing in that situation because of how emotionally connected you felt to this other person. Because man, if they ever decided to leave you, or man, if this doesn't work out, then it's like you're risking everything. So I think you didn't want to invest and then like possibly like lose everything. I think it was the depth of that. And there's an irony here, because you have actually given someone everything. You did it unconsciously, but because I've got a card here that says, I have to have security to be loved. And I think this person from your past was maybe asking you for security. Like I think they felt more comfortable in an emotional space, and they were saying, look, I've got to have security. So I don't know what they were asking you for, or what you felt they were asking you for. Maybe just clarity, or because they knew to navigate, they also felt a strong pull towards you, but they knew if they were willing to go in there, but they knew that what they needed to feel comfortable, because they were going to risk everything and you were going to risk everything. In order to feel comfortable, they need to have security. And I think this person was willing to ask you for that security, but I think you got scared. And the irony is you've given this other person all the security that you could possibly give a person. You've given them your paycheck. You've built them a home. You've built their dream. You've built this person's dream. And it is just a slap in the face to this person from your past. And that's the betrayal wound here as well. But you felt comfortable doing that for this other person because there's no emotional connection. You don't feel emotionally connected. What you feel is distracted. And so you felt like you had more control over this situation. And so I think there's an irony here where actually you've gotten very entrapped in this person, whoever this is that you're with now, you've gotten very entrapped in this person's mind games, I just heard, or their web or their community, because you built their dream. So you're fully like in their territory. And I think that there's a lot of anxiety here, like at night, you know, and you're like, oh my God, how did I do this? Like, how am I in this situation? And I think you're recognizing what you did to this person in the past. And it also feels like you, in order to run from this, you willfully misunderstood this person's character and you put them in the wrong category, because it feels like you treated this situation in your past like it was just a schmegsual situation, or it was just a schmegsual attraction. And it was really intense, but it was just because of the sexual nature of it. And then you treated this person that you're with, that you have an incredibly superficial connection to, as though they were soulmate energy. And you devoted all of your time and your energy and your blood and your sweat and your tears to this person. And really, you got them in the exact wrong category. So I think for some of you, this is a major tower moment. This is some kind of, I just heard midlife crisis. But it's coming, this is going to feel terrible, okay? Because this has gone on for a long period of time. This is what it feels like to awaken, by the way, because you're awakening from unconsciousness. And once you become conscious of something, you can't unsee it. And you're like, oh my God, how could I have ever thought this or that? And that's in any arena of life that you bring your awareness to. And that's why, I don't know, for me, you can kind of get addicted to the spiritual journey, because once you realize how important that is, you're not going to want to be in the dark, you know? You realize it's not a solution. It actually creates a lot more problems. And I think that's what you're realizing here, is that as it turns out, running wasn't the answer. As it turns out, being incredibly unconscious was not the answer. Running into something that is superficial and highly distracting. It felt like relief in the moment. That's that devil's cup, right? I'll give you relief in the moment, but I mean, it's at the expense of the long-term situation. And I think there's a deep gash here, because I'm just seeing like, I don't know if you, I'm seeing, I don't know, like a bridge that's like been blown up, but it's like fully severed. There's like a deep gash here in this like emotional connection. And maybe you did that because of a betrayal wound that you had, because it's hard for you to trust and you were very suspicious of this person, and maybe you shouldn't be. Actually, I think you should have been more suspicious of this other person. But there wasn't the emotional connection, so you didn't feel as threatened by it, is the irony. And I think in a weird way, possibly you've brought about your own self-fulfilling prophecy here, where you're like, well, I don't want to build everything and then just get nothing. And you feel stuck in the situation. You have built everything. And actually, that past situation, I think you had to confront your fear. And I think you had to get a little skin in the game here. But I don't think it would have taken everything from you. I think once you got over that obstacle, it's a paradox point, and it would have given everything. And there's actually security in the love and the emotional connection that you feel with another person. And if you're willing to get in there, and if you're willing to honor it, and if you're willing to explore it and deal with your hurtful emotions and learn a new skill with a person that you love and that you think you can trust. I think the emotionality, the deep emotionality of that past connection is in some way what made you suspicious. Like I think you thought it was this person's behavior or something like that, but it's not their behavior. It's your own emotions for them made you feel vulnerable, and that made you feel at risk. And then that's when you started to get like very suspicious and vulnerable to believing the justification voices in your head, and possibly other voices that were like, yeah, just run away, just treat that person like shit, you know, give everything that you should be giving to them to someone else, like make them cry, you know, like whatever it is. And now I think you feel taken from in this situation. Like it's not fulfilling to you. And maybe that's not entirely this other person's fault, because I think you're realizing that you were very complicit in your own capture here, and that you got what you wanted from the situation, which was a distraction. It's just that now you no longer want to be distracted, and now this is an unequitable situation and it doesn't suit you. And there could be an element of this person that you're with kind of knowing exactly what they were doing as well, like kind of keeping you distracted. Well, definitely there's a selfishness of like, they knew that and just like really entrenching themselves. They definitely want to be seen as having it all. And I think that you made yourself indispensable to that in some way. You know, and I think the superficial parts of this connection have been fulfilling, but now that you're starting to connect with the deeper parts of yourself, I don't even know that that's fulfilling anymore. Yeah. So I think the purpose of this coming through is, first of all, to help you debrief and process, because you are willing to do that. You're showing a willingness, and spirit is rising up to meet you, and it's going to help you kind of process through this. I feel like you think you've got some decisions here to make, and I'm sure that is true. But I just want you to know that just because something feels bad doesn't mean that it's wrong, and it doesn't mean that you should run away. I think you already learned that in the past, but I feel like this might be a flight risk kind of group where I think intense emotions, especially ones that are hard to deal with, may be a trigger for you, and then it's a trigger for you to go more unconscious. I think you may have learned in some irreversible way that the answer is not to go unconscious and to run away. So I just want you to know, like, this is what a spiritual awakening feels like. This is what it feels like at first when you wake up where in a place in your life where you've been deeply unconscious. It's horrifying because it's kind of like, have you heard when you turn 25, like 25, 26 is when the brain fully develops, and there's that kind of panicky, like almost existential crisis moment that you have around that time because your brain fully kicks on and it's like, oh my God, what have you been doing? What decisions have you made? Where are we? Like, what messes have been created? It feels like that of the heart here, where the heart finally came online and was like, oh my God. And so you're going to work through this at whatever pace you need to. Make sure you take care of yourself and tend to your emotions and your emotional need as you're doing this. And you'll get this cleared up, and then this is going to be a functioning part of yourself. And I just want you to know, like, that's the goal. That's where you're trying to get to, is not having to run from situations like this. And I just heard your children may have, I'm seeing young adult children. So I don't know if you have those now or if they eventually, of course, will be young adults, but I'm seeing there being a situation, I'm seeing like 25 to 28, and where your open-heartedness, like your ability to actually hold space, like a deep emotional space for them, will be pertinent in a key, they may not repeat this pattern with somebody. It may make the difference in their life. So you may actually be able to say, like, listen, don't run towards a superficial situation. Okay, it's not the answer. Or you're just going to hear it because you're going to hear through the heart or something like that. Or there's just going to be, it might not even be so direct. There may just be a way in which you steer your child that's emotionally led, and it helps them. It gets them not in a karmic situation, and it gets them in the situation that they should be investing in for themselves and for themselves, really, I think. I just saw their heart start to bloom and blossom and like really take root. I just heard, so be proud of that. All right, so that's what I have for you. If that resonates, please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Bye.